Hello everyone, my name is Krati Bharadwaj, a legal editor at Vidhi.com. At Vidhi.com, we deliver you important judgments, update you on legal matter, and organize webinar on the issues that are current and ongoing. And today, we will be discussing about Hathras gang rape case, how the state did the miscarriage of justice. And to discuss on this issue, we have with us Mishika Singh. Hello ma'am, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Krati. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start off by giving a brief introduction about her. So Mishika Singh is a Delhi-based advocate who completed her LLB from Campus Law Center DU, and then later on she went on to complete her LLM from United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute. She is the founder of NEEV, which is a foundation for legal aid, a charitable public trust for pro bono legal work, legal advocacy, and legal education. NEEP works for human right welfare and women's right. It also aims to provide justice irrespective of the social and financial barriers. She also started Lawyers for Detainee to address the illegal detention of people during the CAA protest. So, ma'am, as we have seen that the Hathras case is going through a lot of is highlighting a lot of there is mishandling of the case, and the police investigation is completely botched up, and the Allahabad High Court has taken this suo motu cognizance because it was much needed because of the things that are going on and the series of blunders that are committed by the authorities. So what's your take on this?
I think, Krati, the first thing which from which all these glaring problems have surfaced is the absolute refusal and denial of the state to accept that this is a caste-based sexual violence. There's been no acknowledgement, and in fact, even when people have raised their voice that this is a caste-based case of sexual violence, the police, the state have gone a step ahead and denied it completely. There was agitation by the upper caste communities to say that this wasn't the case. And this is not an isolated incident. In the past also, especially in UP and Lakhimpur Kheri area, there have been several cases of caste-based sexual violence. And despite that, the state is absolutely refusing to acknowledge the same. So I think the root of all problems is this. Sex has, over the last few decades, become one of the most used weapons, one of the cheapest weapons to sort of, even in war times, it's used as a weapon against the other side. And even in this case and the other cases where caste-based sexual violence is taking place, we can see that the power politics are coming to the forefront, are being highlighted, and rape is being used as a weapon. So it's not just a sexual violence crime, but it's also a caste-based crime that's taking place. And since the beginning, because of this denial, there has been a very shoddy investigation by the UP police, and the state has, absolutely not taken any accountability of the same. I'll start with talking about, the way the FIR was registered. Now, the police has obviously been claiming that the incident, the rape took place, the rape was on 14th of September. This is a month from now. And the police has claimed that, immediately an FIR was registered. What the police is refusing to throw light on or acknowledge or answer about is that the FIR was registered only in the case of attempt to murder. The whole act of rape, the sexual violence, was not even taken into consideration. So technically, while the police may be correct in saying that the FIR was registered in time, it wasn't registered for the act because of which the victim has died. And eventually, when the victim regained consciousness on 22nd, is when the FIR was revised to add 354 and eventually the section under IPC for gang rape, 376D. So it was already at least almost a week after the rape took place that these things were included in the FIR, which goes to show that a lot of effort was made by the police to not include rape in the FIR since the beginning. And because of that, there was no investigation that was taking place in that angle, which brings me to the next part of how even in the investigation, eventually the police released a statement on 1st of October, that no rape took place because no sperm was found in the vaginal swab. Now, this is not only technically and legally incorrect, but also the way it was conducted and conveyed to the press has been it's been done in a very unprofessional, in a very insensitive manner. It was only later that people got to know, and this information was accessed, that the forensics on the basis of which this press release was announced that no sperm has been found was done 11 days later. So the crime was committed on 14th of September, and on 25th of September is when the samples were taken for forensics. So of course, in 11 days, the likelihood of finding samples in the body of the prosecutrix is impossible. And the Supreme Court has made it very clear that presence of sperm in the vagina is not conclusive proof of rape, and absence of the same cannot be a reason to rule out rape. So this was the first thing that the UP police did, and did very confidently, without even taking into consideration the catena of judgments that's there, the law that's there. Law says that in cases where sexual violence has been alleged, the forensics, the reports, the samples have to be taken within 24 hours. This was much, much, much after those 24 hours. And in the reports also, the forensic reports make it clear that there was penetration. Now, we have seen the criminal amendment after the Delhi rape case in 2012. Even before that, presence of sperm has never been a criteria to establish a case of rape. And after the amendment, what was also to be seen was that a rape does not have to be just vaginal. The penetration could be in any orifice of the body. It could be the anus, it could be the mouth. And these things have absolutely been completely negated when the police has come out with this press release. One thing is to say that, fine, there was no sperm that was found in the vaginal swab. Well, the vaginal swab was taken after 11 days. And to correlate it to saying that that's conclusive proof that there was no rape that was committed, it's absolutely illegal, immoral. It's atrocious the way things are being carried out. And there's been mass agitation because of these things. So from that, I'll now talk about how the high-handedness of the police, of the state authorities, has also been seen in curbing any dissent that's been there. Eventually, when the FIR was registered, and then these forensics were taken, the press release happened. The body of the victim after the death has been cremated forcefully, and this was the body was taken from Delhi back to Hathras, and it was cremated without the family members being there. Now, the police has, in its affidavit before the Allahabad High Court, and the PIL has, made a lot of points justifying why that was done. They've given justifications like there was a lot of chaos already, and there was a lot of clashes between the upper caste and lower caste, and some of the family of the victim was already there. But it's absolutely not taken into account what the victim's family is saying. The parents have gone on record to say that the body was taken separately. They came from Delhi in a separate car, and there was absolutely no conversation about what was happening. The preparation for the cremation was done without informing them in front of their house. Uh, all the wood was collected, the pyre was set, all these things were done without even taking the consent of the victim's family. And there was no permission that was taken by the police authorities to go ahead with the cremation. Belatedly, they're of course justifying it by saying that it was to control communal tension, but that is, that absolutely does not, that explanation is not good enough. You first denied a victim the right to a decent life by not protecting her. Then you denied her a right to access justice by not registering her FIR properly on the basis of what she said. And then you denied the victim the right to even a proper burial. And the victim is now no longer with us, but her family continues to suffer in different ways. There's there's an FIR against them, they're being investigated, and all sorts of things are happening. And the police still being high and mighty in this country, and especially in the states of UP and Delhi in the last couple of years, is just going ahead with whatever they want to. And legally also, dying declaration is one of the strongest pieces of evidence that's not been taken into consideration in this case when the police comes up with such a press release. Uh, Law very clearly says, Section 32 of Evidence Act very clearly says that a person who's dying and and giving a statement regarding the how the crime that was committed on them or in relation to their death, that proof has to be, that evidence has to be taken into consideration. So not only has the police violated the legal principles, the laws that are there, but even ethically and morally, the way they've conducted themselves has been reprehensible. This is about the victim and the victim's family. In the same PIL, which claimed that there should, the investigation should be given over to CBI, the police, and now there's a request for narco analysis and polygraph test, which is absolutely crazy. I don't know how these things are even coming up and why they're even being discussed, because the landmark case on narco analysis, Selvi versus State of Karnataka, very clearly says that the narco analysis is only to be conducted on the accused. And the purpose for which the narco analysis is conducted is to see if they can make a headway in the investigation. So even if a person is saying something, even if the accused gives out a statement incriminating themselves in while the narco analysis is happening, it can't be directly used against them. It's hit by Article 20 of the Constitution. So these are the things, the legalities that the police is absolutely avoiding. The state is absolutely taking no account of. Hopefully, the judiciary is going to do a better job in this. Now, coming to the way the police and the state has handled any outrage that has happened against the case, media has done a very responsible job initially in the breakout of the case, and now the people of the press have been targeted. They have been told not to go in that area. Section 144 was imposed by 1st of October in Hathras, citing the pandemic and corona, and there was absolutely no test done to show how suddenly overnight Hathras became a containment zone. And just to ward off collection of people, just to ward off any dissent, any outrage, Section 144 was imposed. So the police handedness has not limited itself to the way they've treated the victim or the victim's family. It's also gone ahead to how a citizen of this country is treated in cases where the police is crossing its boundaries, where the police is misbehaving with the citizens, where the police is denying justice and going sort of going way beyond its way to suppress the rights of the people. We know what happened after 144 was imposed. The press was kept out of that area. Strangely, there was a lot of collection and organization of upper caste men in Hathras. And well, not surprisingly, the police could not stop it. So, it seems that the narrative that the police also wants to set is very in consonance with what the upper caste wants to support, that we will not accept that there is any caste based sexual violence in this country, which is, like I said, the root of all problems. Coming after that to what happened with 144, roads from Delhi were blocked to Hathras. Leaders of oppositions were manhandled. There's footage of how leaders of the party that ruled for so long, from the Gandhi family, how they were misbehaved with. There were male cops touching women leaders and misbehaving with them. Even in Delhi, there were protests organized on 1st October and 2nd October, and a lot of colleagues, a lot of people that we worked in the past who'd organized these protests were dragged and were forcibly taken from UP Bhavan, were forcibly taken from India Gate to Mandir Marg police station, and they were kept there. So, all this goes to show that the police and the state are trying very hard to change the narrative, to make sure there's absolutely no discussion on caste based sexual violence in India. And if there's any voice of dissent, if there's even a single person who dares to stand against these atrocities or raise a voice, they're going to be reprimanded, whether it's arrest, detentions, bogus FIRs. we can see very clearly how the state is shielding the perpetrators and in a way encouraging them. If you deny something as big as caste-based sexual violence, you're encouraging it. You're definitely going out of your way to protect those who are perpetrating such crimes.
Yes, ma'am, very right. There are so many. The actually the authorities are getting involved. It is the job of the police to do their work without any authorities getting involved. But the authorities are going out of their ways, and instead of bringing transparency to the case, they are blocking the media. They are not allowing medias, like even for a day or two. If they did not allow media to have access to the victim's family, it was not right. It was like we need more transparency, and the media is playing a very right role, or which is much needed, because how would we know what is actually happening out there? And it was even shown that the boy ran through the field and came to the media people, and he said that the family is being beaten up, or they are being locked in the room, and that some they were not it was a kind of coercion that they were being that was done on them. So the restriction on media is like completely it is something like it is not done in usual course. Even something like wartime situation or some during that time it is done, it's reasonable. But why is it it was done at this time? Was it reasonable according to you?
Even in war times, interesting that you brought that up. There's something known as, this was during the World Wars, something known as embedded journalism, which is actually talking about, how journalists go with, are a part of the troops and they report what's happening. And even in these times, there's a lot of war reportage that's there. And those are the people that, under the Geneva Conventions, they're safeguarded, doctors, nurses, people from media, the press is safeguarded from even in a war situation. But here, interestingly, it's not a war. A war is always two-sided. This is just a one-sided attack on the freedom of the citizens, on their right to life, on the way that we are. So restrictions from on media, especially in this case, it's amazing how last month we saw media going completely, especially television media, going out of its way in harassing the accused and hounding the accused in one of the cases. And there was absolutely no state regulation on that, and there was no police saying that no, the press can't do this, the press can't harass actors, the press can't harass someone who's been accused of a crime, and they can't do that. But just a month later, 2 months later, in this case, the police is going out of its way to stop media. So it shows how conveniently they can switch stands when it suits their narrative. These 21 FIRs that have been filed, it's against leaders, it's against, there's a FIR against Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. Chandrasekhar Azad of Bhim Army called for a protest. There's an FIR against him. There's an FIR against Shailendra Tiwari. So we can see that the high-handedness of the police and of the state has extended from media to even the political leaders. Any person who even has put out a post on Facebook criticizing the Prime Minister, criticizing the CM, they have an FIR against them, and which makes you think that how long can a person go on dissenting in a state like this? You can keep agitating and you can keep getting reprimanded, but when all the authorities are aligned, when the police, the state, they're all aligned to ensure that there's no voice of dissent, how long can students, young leaders, and politicians go on raising a voice? And this has been going on for quite some time. And I think this government is identified with its arrogance and its flexing police power. This is not an isolated incident where the state has used the police to curb dissent. We've seen it happening in the past, and it's only growing in momentum. The way the police is dealing with the press, the way the police is dealing with the media, the way the police is dealing with anyone who dares to dissent, it absolutely goes to show that there is no, either you toe the line or action will be taken against you. In fact, there was, I think, a WhatsApp video that was circulated in which you can see the police official threatening one of the family members, saying that the media is eventually going to leave from this place and you'll have to deal with us. And it's there for all of us to see. We're all seeing it, and the laws are there in place, but nothing is being done. There is that just earlier this year there was a video of these Delhi police people beating people and forcing them to sing the national anthem, and nothing has been done against them. It's all the evidence is there, and there are so many FIRs. They're absolutely not progressing. So this build up has been happening for really long, where the police has gotten ultimate power to do as they please. And earlier it was more on the lines of still being in the legal boundaries, but maybe not morally and morally responsible or being empathetic to certain caste, to certain religion, to certain minorities, to certain section. But now it's not even what the police is doing is not even legal. There's the dying declaration that's being avoided. There's a press release that says no sperm found in the vagina, so it's not a rape. The way that they're functioning is absolutely illegal. And you know, police is supposed to be the custodian of uh, they're supposed to take care of your safety. You're supposed to go to them in cases where you feel you're being threatened. And this I've said many times, and I keep saying it, that India is, at least in Delhi, UP, and all these North Indian states, police only incites a feeling of danger, of of problem. If I'm alone at night walking on the road, and if I see a police van, I will definitely not feel safe. I will feel the opposite of safe, and which is not good at all for any country where the police is supposed to be taking care of your safety. If the feeling that the police manage to get in you is of fear and of danger, there's something really wrong, and we need to look at those questions and find solutions for them.
Yes, ma'am, you're right. And there is FIR lodged against some unidentified person under sedition, right? For sedition. So, ma'am, you were a part of CA protest. Like, you were there, sorry. You were there and you were helping for the illegal detention of the people. And so, like, how this sedition law is misused by the police?
So sedition in India now basically means, how sedition was a gift to us by our colloquial rulers who wanted to stifle dissent. And, that's the amendment we needed. Maybe not the Citizenship Act to be amended, but maybe removal of the law on sedition. There's freedom of speech given in the Constitution. There's enough restriction on freedom of speech. And that should have been enough. But now, there's an uprising of usage of these sedition laws that's there, and it's just to stifle dissent. We have become the rulers that we fought against. So any voice of dissent is now sedition in this country. You can't say, today if we are talking about this could be seditious because this is telling people about what's happening, and this could incite a riot or incite violence, and anything is against the public order and safety of this country if it's not saying what the government wants us to say. And interesting that you brought up the unidentified persons FIR. This has been a recent trend. A lot of FIRs being filed with against unidentified persons. So as soon as someone raises their voice, they get identified. So the police will say 4 accused plus 20 unidentified, and you say anything about that, or you say anything, and they're like, okay, this is the one person who was unidentified. So the police is keeping that thing open, that they can keep adding names of anyone who has the courage to dissent and who wants to exercise their fundamental right of being a free citizen in this country. So this whole thing of unidentified is again a way of the police showing its high-handedness and a looming threat over anyone who wants to raise their voice, knowing that if they do, they can be one of those unidentified people. This happened in the Delhi riots also. There's so many FIRs against unidentified people, and so many victims, so many people who've tried to access justice are now being identified in those FIRs. So this is something that the police is doing, and it's doing it openly. And what concerns me most is that now the police is not even very जो बोलते हैं कि छुप के कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, जो भी कर रहे हैं बहुत डंके की चोट पे कर रहे हैं. तो एक वो जो अंदर से लगता है कि गलत कर रहे हैं, पकड़े जाएंगे तो बुरा हो सकता है, वो डर नहीं बचा है. जो पुलिस का दबदबा है वो बढ़ता ही जा रहा है. They know that they have the state backing them, and no matter what they do, as long as it aligns with what the state wants them to do, they can proceed illegally, immorally, unethically, unempathetically. They can just proceed whichever way they want to. It's very, साम दाम दंड भेद कि हम सब कर लेंगे, and eventually we will manage to stifle you. We will detain you. If that doesn't matter, then we will arrest you. If that's not good enough, we'll invoke UAPA, we'll invoke sedition laws. So it's just one thing, the arsenal that the police has, not the literal one, but the arsenal that the police has in these terms is a lot, and they are not shying away from using it at all.
So, ma'am, the government has said that there was some international plot to defame the government, which is quite strange. Like if they are facing they are doing their lapses, procedural delay, and many other things they have done, mishandled the case. So now, do you think they're trying to just cover it up by making up some issues like international plot?
I think I like how everything is an international conspiracy now, because the image that this government wants to portray is कि इस देश के लोग तो हमारे साथ हैं. Whatever is happening from the outside. So there's funding coming from outside, there's ideas coming from outside, there's arms coming from outside. So I think that's the narrative that they want to show, that there's definitely a conspiracy, but it can't be within the people because we are one, and we the people. So it has to be international, and it seems like these are the things like NIA, UAPA, international conspiracy has become a common thread. You raise dissent, and these are the things that are going to come up. And for a government which has seen, like, for a state that's seen Muzaffarnagar riots, and for the way things have been in UP in a lot of years, it's very rich saying that the opposition is inciting riots. It's amazing how they can even get away with such statements when they themselves have been known to say some really provocative things. It was just last year when the Unnao rape case happened. This BJP person Sengar was out for the longest time. There was no statement from our leaders, from the CM, taking him to task, reprimanding him. And UP has been known to shield men, high upper caste men who have been involved in a lot of rape cases, crimes against women, sexual violence. And this is what they've supported all along. So now, just to not take account of that, and just to not be accountable for that, they want to introduce the angle of international conspiracy. It's amazing. And the website that they relied on,
Yeah.
anyone who can read that website will understand that what the CM is talking about in international conspiracy holds no water. You see that website, and it's absolutely, it's a joke. And using that joke to say that there's an international conspiracy to defame this government is just like I said, this government is known for its arrogance. And in the last 6 years that they've been around, I've not seen a single time where they've taken a step back and said, okay, we made a mistake and we're going to set this right. They just, वो होता नहीं है कि जंगल में जब जाते हैं तो हाथ पे डंडा लेके you just keep on just destroying all the trees, path, anything that comes in your way, just go guns blazing. That's what they're doing. And anyone who comes in their way is either in an FIR or been detained, or has, now UAP against them, is not given bail. That's the very sorry state of affairs in this country.
Mishika, I have the question. You are from Delhi. Compared to the from Nirbhaya case, and now we compare this case, Hathras case. So that time there was a complete different movement came. It was such a public outrage was there. People were in the streets. People went to the parliament. Like it was completely, there was an outburst of how people came for demanding the justice. Now, right now, if we see like after 8 years, we see what, like people are divided. हम उनको देखते हैं कि victim का caste क्या है, victim religion कौन है, even accused कौन है, their caste, and this has polarized. Now, what has happened is we are divided. Initially, before it, we were united for the reasons there was reasons, there were I think there was more logical reasons. Compare now, we are totally divided, and since the opinions are divided, people also believes that there is some problem with the victim as well. I think kuch galti tha. So why do you think that has happened after 8 years? Why we are so uh, become
You're
like
right,
this?
Prem. In the 2012 Delhi rape case, we did come out in the streets. In fact, I with a couple of other people went to the PMO. We worked on the Justice Verma Committee report. The amendments eventually did come in 2013, and there was a lot of you're right to say that a lot of joint. There's a lot of collaboration between different organizations and groups of people to come together and demand justice and demand that laws be amended and things be changed. It was mostly a united front. But to compare that case with this one, I think the problem again goes back to that this is not an isolated incident of caste based sexual violence. And because we refuse to acknowledge caste in our country, we say untouchability is abolished. We say that article 15 is there to protect everyone and there should be no discrimination because of article 15. But these are things only on paper. And because these things are only on paper, and because we teach children that caste system was earlier existing in India and now has been abolished, we end up creating this divide amongst people as they're growing up. It's a matter of conditioning. If you keep telling me as a child that there's no caste system, there's no caste system, there's no caste system, for me to acknowledge this case as a caste based sexual violence case becomes a problem, because you have told me that there's no caste system in India. So that's where the division happens. You see the agitation from the upper caste, which says that this is not a caste-based crime. Well, they say there's no crime, and then they say it's not caste-based, and then they go on to say that caste has no role to play in it. But Delhi is, from what my understanding is, the case that happened in Delhi was it happened in an urban area. It happened in urban Delhi. The why it shook the nation was the sheer brutality of that case. And before that, for at least there was no media outrage, or there's no nationwide outrage on such a brutal case that we had seen in the recent times. But I think at a certain level, we have become desensitized to brutality in rape. It's something that it shocks our conscience for the minute when we read it, maybe that one day, but eventually it's so rampant, and we are not interested in acknowledging that it's there and it's happening due to certain reasons, is why we've come to a stage where in this case there is outrage, but it's mostly it's also looking at caste based violence. So there's of course a very definite divide when people say that this is a case of sexual violence, it is rape, and it's a brutal rape, and that's why such and such thing should be done. And there's an equal or probably maybe not equal, but there's a large number of people saying that this is caste based sexual violence and you need to acknowledge it. And that divide is sort of what has maybe divided the efforts. Of course, the pandemic has not helped us. The pandemic has sort of destroyed uh, any we used to come on roads to express our dissent. But now in the garb of pandemic, all these protests are not being allowed. People are also scared to go out. But arbitrary imposition of section 144, that's there. So the climate of the country is different. I think in 2012 we had a more the country was more open in terms of dissent. You could criticize the government and not be scared of an FIR against you. You could be a lawyer supporting protesters in their time of need if they were illegally detained and not be scared. Today, we're not living in those times. Today, if we take a stand, we have to be ready to suffer the consequences. So I think the political climate of the country is very different. There was scope for dissent way back in 2012, and there's absolutely, well, that entire scope of dissent has been destroyed in the last 6 years. And here we are now, where anyone who's dissenting also has to take a politically correct stand to fight for the woman, fight for crimes against women, but maybe not get into the fight of caste, because well, caste doesn't exist in India.
Like, I have one more this question. Says, see, if you see how the prosecution had taken up this case, how loosely this the date in which FIR, how the evidences is collected, compared to they have a very weak documentary evidence. They have a less of more of a oral evidence right now, and it's very the family statement is they keep on changing. So as far as the criminal practice, as far I see this case from the accused point of view, I think it's a very easy case to get to for acquittal. And but I also see a problem of this, since because this case will be a media trial one, because people will be constantly looking into this, how this case is going. So do you think there will be a fair trial? I mean,
It's
from
not a
both
fair
sides.
trial to start with. Like you said, the prosecution has already done a very shoddy job. You know, in criminal practice, whenever in criminal law, whenever there is a crime that's committed, it's the accused versus the state. You know, if A has committed a crime, it's state versus A. Sadly, the state and the accused and everything is aligned over here, so there's no two sides. The way the police has functioned and the way they have in the registering of the FIR, the way the investigation is going, releasing a press release saying that there's no rape and the death was due to strangulation because we didn't find any sperm in the vaginal swab. There is no versus anymore. The accused and the state are not at two different sides. So definitely, it is a very shoddy case in terms of prosecution to start with. But I think, Prem, what we also need to see is that even if in this case there is conviction, and let's hope that there will be, let's still hold on to that hope that there will be conviction at some stage. There's the dying declaration, there's other things that are there. The forensic report should not really amount too much because it was the samples were taken 11 days later. What we need to understand is that if we fail to recognize this as caste based sexual violence, justice will never be served, because we're still denying an entire area of crime, an entire field of crime which does exist very rampantly in our country. So I think justice would also be to acknowledge that there is caste based sexual violence in India that is rampant, and to take that into consideration, especially in such cases. So in the longer run, I think that's also something that should be coming under the umbrella of justice, the acknowledgement of caste-based sexual violence.
Ma'am, as you said, in today's government, if you criticize, there is a consequence of everything. So don't you think criticism is our also a kind of right? We have, if we are not resorting to any kind of violence, we have the right, we have the freedom of speech and expression, and it cannot be called as sedition, because just because we are expressing an opinion for our views over the laws or anything that's going in the country, because we are a citizen, we are electing government, we are making them so much empowered. So don't you think they are just taking our right by giving some very lame reasons? And criticism is very much required for a government to grow and for a strong government and a strong nation. So what do you think?
I think Corona, if it's not helped, if it's actually gone ahead and helped someone, is this government. They managed to clean off all the protest sites. That's the excuse for imposing 144 everywhere. So this government should really be thankful for the pandemic, to just pile on everything on the pandemic as an excuse. But coming to protest is our right. It's guaranteed by the constitution. You have a right to protest. But just a couple of days back, the Supreme Court did rule that you can't occupy public space indefinitely in a protest. And my question is, why not? It wasn't. It wasn't doing some permanent, damage. Of course, there was blockage of road, but that was the whole point, to inconvenience people, for them to understand what is happening. If the protest does not even inconvenience, citizens or the government, then that's also a problem, because then what's the point of the protest? But that's the thing. This government, like I said, that's why they're recognized by their arrogance, because they don't think they need any criticism. They're and we look at the press conferences, or the lack thereof, that have been done by our PM in the last 6 years of holding seat. where is a chance to criticize? You can criticize on Twitter, you can criticize on Facebook, you can organize a protest, I can organize a sabha, and on the mic I can criticize, but that's about it. Can I take my criticism somewhere else? Not really. So that acceptance and that openness to criticism, it's been abolished from this country. That's what's been abolished, that whole idea of that you can criticize the government, and that's the sign of a healthy government. Because of course they're not perfect, they must be doing things that are wrong, they must be doing wrong things with governance, with administrative matters, other things, and it's only when you take inputs is when you understand what you're doing wrong and what you can change. But there's a big wall when it comes to criticizing this government, and of course it's depriving us of our very core fundamental rights. You elect a government, the democracy that we talk about, it's of the people, for the people, by the people. So it's by the people because you elected that. It's of the people, for the people, definitely not. So I think we need to revise the constitution, we starting from the preamble to the fundamental rights to the DPSPs. It's we only revised 370, but I think everything else really needs a revision so that there's some uh, actual someone gets an idea of what the constitution stands for in 2020. If the constitution was a person, I think it would be an identity crisis by right now, because they think that they're made of such and such thing, but they're actually just a piece of paper holding no value.
Yeah, UP government is following its own laws, I guess. They're just completely going out of way.
Yeah,
So
it's a gunda land, and it's been like that, and it's only getting worse every year, every minute, every month, actually.
no, so I would request the participants to unmute themselves and ask the questions. So the participants can unmute and ask the question if they have any.
See, I think I have the question and we can conclude. So the last question, I still think the prosecution, how the Uttar Pradesh government, the Hathras police has taken, it's a completely, it's a very bad prosecution they are taking. It's I think bad prosecution, I can say. But I also see in my practice, we have seen there are rape cases where there are frivolous cases as well. So right now, but there are genuine cases, and there are very less genuine cases goes for reporting. So what do you think? How the things and particularly comment upon how the criminal system reforms are right now, like the Justice Verma Committee report that happened, and right now, are we seeing any progress, or we have not seen anything, or it's going bad because of the government?
So, Prem, misuse of law is something that I often get into discussions with. I do a lot of work in women's rights, and I always get this question ki, dowry death log abuse kar rahe hain, 498 abuse kar rahe hain, and, women are using rape laws and molestation laws to get where they are, and, to sort of use it as a blackmail. And my response to that is that every law in this country is misused. Check bouncing cases are misused, murder laws are misused, cheating laws are misused, fraud laws are misused. All the laws that are there will be misused. And this resentment of only laws which are there to safeguard women against those laws, that resentment stems from this inherent patriarchal misogynist mindset that we have, that no one goes to say that do something about check bouncing. Why is it a criminal offense? There's so many fake cases that are being filed. No one does that. It's only when we talk about crimes against women that this becomes a problem. So definitely laws are misused, I'm not going to deny that, but all laws are misused. Does that mean that we stop having laws in place because they be misused? No. What That's the point of the judiciary, to see where where there's a genuine case and where there isn't. And I understand that it may be a little harsh to one gender, and maybe a little softer to one gender, but we can't completely deny the position of women and the position of men in this country. We can't deny how we've been brought up. We can't deny an overlooming patriarchal mindset that we're all brought up with, that in schools and colleges, in our own families, that's not something that we can deny. So if there are laws that are trying to maybe break that, or at least ease that, for a woman in India. I think, and if you know there's resentment against that, that goes to sort of show the mindset that we've been brought up with and the conditioning that we have. And coming to the Justice Verma committee report, you know, this is my problem with reports and you know, recommendations, that they're there on paper, we hail them, we become very happy about them, but that's where it ends. You know, this whole thing of fast track courts and you know, better prosecution, hearings being conducted on a regular basis, none of that is actually being followed. It's definitely there on paper. I understand that the courts are burdened, but you know, that's the whole point of getting a system in place, that these kind of things are taken into consideration. So there's definitely a need for better implementation of the recommendation of the Varma committee report. The amendments are there in place, but there's so many other things that need to be taken care of, that we still have a long way to go from. So things are getting worse in terms of you know, as citizens of the country, if you decide to take a stand against something wrong that you see, you're likely to be reprimanded for it. So as a citizen, your fundamental rights are definitely being curtailed, and there is definite restriction on them, more than I have seen in the last 3 decades of my life. But in terms of where we are with the laws and the reports, I think uh, well, we may not be moving forward, but at least we're not going backwards. We can definitely make a lot of more progress. We can definitely, you know, like the cyber, when you have to report something in the cyber crime cell, it looks at only a very particular kind of complaint that you make. So if someone's not sexually harassing you online, then your case is, well, probably very weak to actually get you somewhere. So these are the kind of things that we can definitely progress on legally in terms of laws and being in place. But in terms of the freedom that uh, the Constitution guarantees us, we have definitely regressed a lot. We have become the colloquial rulers that we're fighting against. This state has become the colloquial rulers that we managed to get out of our country after they ruled for, you know, 200 years.
There is one question that is there from Indesh Tripathi. The question is, please tell about how an active citizen can help to improve law and order. Most of the public just wait for election day and it sits idle for 5 years. What question is, how can active citizen can help to improve the law and order?
Hi, Andresh. Thank you for your question. I think as a responsible citizen, it's your duty to question and challenge the government. And I know we discussed about how that question and challenge is not welcome and is reprimanded. But you know, how many people can the government keep reprimanding? We need to be active citizens of the country and not passive, like wake up and every 5 years elect and just go on with our lives. If we see wrong happening, we should question that wrong. If we see a police, you know, a state's police uh, behaving in a way that should be reprimanded, then you reprimand that. You raise your voice wherever you can. And I think another thing that's important is to educate other people around you. You know, you may think that well, I saw that this is happening and I raised my voice against it, but what about that? Well, you talk to other people about it. There may be uh, people who don't know so much, are not that actively involved in what's happening in the country, because it doesn't really concern them. They're happy in their nice houses where things may not reach them if they don't want it to. It's important to get those people involved. You don't always have to have a stake in whatever's happening in this country for you to you don't have to have a direct stake for what's happening in the country for you to raise a voice. And I think it's important to educate people that it's as important as it is to cast your vote, it's also important to make that vote count and to keep questioning the government and to keep questioning everything else that's happening in the country, judiciary, government, police, all of it. I think that's a good way to go about it. That's a start.
Thank you, ma'am, for throwing
Thank
light on glaring issues and giving us so much information, like what's wrong and what's right, and how things are supposed to be, and what picture we are being shown. Thank you so much for joining us, and enriching us with your session. And I hope we could be more aware about our rights, and rather than just simply following the like what is being told. And I feel there is sometimes a sudden wave on social media and people become enlightened, and after that when it is gone nobody cares about what's going in the country. So I guess we should stop doing that and should become more like conscious about our right and what our stake is, and like we are the one who is electing the government, so we should choose the people wisely, and we should not let them exploit our rights in the name of votes. So that's it, and thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, ma'am.